Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is December the 30th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. We just been chilling today, just relaxing. Let's see, food corner yesterday. I had chili dogs and chili cheese fries and a burger with bacon. It was very yummy. Let's see here. There's really nothing else to report on the personal stuff. Like I said, I'm just cooling. We're just hanging out. It's nice. I'm eating a lot of junk food, which is probably very bad for me. I eat a nerd's rope, so there's a added food corner thing for you. It was good, but anyway, let me go ahead and do my startup, and then we'll get into some news. Whew. From the Associated Press, airstrikes hit camps in central Gaza as Biden administration approves new weapon sales to Israel. Israeli warplanes struck two urban refugee camps in central Gaza on Saturday as the Biden administration approved a new emergency weapon sale to Israel despite persistent international ceasefire calls over mounting civilian deaths, hunger, and mass displacement in the enclave. Let me see here. What else did I really wanted to add from this? The health ministry in Gaza said Saturday that the Palestinian death toll since the start of the war rose to 21,672, with a further 56,165 people wounded during the same period. Over the past 24 hours, 165 people were killed, said ministry spokesman Ashraf Al-Qudra. The ministry does not distinguish between the deaths of combatants and civilians, but has said about 70% of those killed have been women and children. Some of the latest deaths were reported as Israeli airstrikes targeted the urban refugee camps of Nuseirat and Burij overnight and into Saturday. Sorry for my pronunciation. Nurat resident Mustafa Abu Wawi said a strike hit his home, hit the home of one of his relatives, killing two people. The Israeli occupation is doing everything to force people to leave, he said over the phone, while searching along with others for four people missing under the rubble. They want to break our spirit, but they will fail. We are here to stay. A second strike late Friday in Nuseirat targeted the home of a journalist for Al Quds TV, a channel linked to the group Islamic Jihad, whose militants also participated in the October 7th attack. The channel said the journalist, Jabu Abu Hadros, and 6 members of his family were killed. And then I wanted to get to the second part of this article, which is talking about more or less how Biden is so eager to give Israel the weapons and the funding, the things that it needs, that he is sidestepping, juking Congress itself to make it happen. The State Department said Friday that Secretary of State Anthony Blinken told Congress he approved a $147.5 million sale for equipment, including fuses, charges, and primers, that is needed for the 155 millimeter shells Israel bought previously. It marked the second time this month that the Biden administration is bypassing Congress to approve an emergency weapons sale to Israel. The department cited the urgency for Israel's defense needs as the reason for approval. Sure, Joe. Of course, they really needed it because it's going so hard for them. I will say though, what I think from what I've heard so far, I think 106 Israeli soldiers have died. So, that's 106 IDF members who aren't coming home to their families. I feel like that's something that, as this goes on, because, from Israel's side, they're saying we don't want to stop. We're not going to stop. This is going to go on for at least some months. They've been talking phases and things like that, but no signs of stopping. And then from, Hamas's side, they're saying, hey, we want a ceasefire, a complete ceasefire, no more temporary stuff. We are willing to negotiate and trade for hostages, but this is a baseline that we're not giving up. We're not compromising. So, that's more or less where we're leaving it as we close out the year. I know that as much as it's referenced on this podcast and every news thing I kind of wind up reading and stuff, like October 7th was a big day. It was a big moment. But that's not where this started. And where we go from here is just a continuation, and it's sad because this is just something that doesn't have to happen. This whole pushing of people more or less out, like I think at this point it's been calculated that 1%, and that's just from this instance, from October 7th to right now, 1% of Gaza's population just wiped out. You know what I mean? Like, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It is hard for me to not view this as some kind of collective punishment, a genocidal cleansing, or, genocide or ethnic cleansing. It's hard for me not to view it as such. And, that's why it's like something that I think about often and I don't want to look away from. And, when when stories come up, I want to cover them as best I can, best of my ability. So I know going into 2024, we're going to keep doing that, just like we have been doing with Ukraine, and just like we've been doing before. We've been covering this shit as, I've been seeing stories and I've been learning and growing. And, I really do hope that we see positive change, in the future. I will say the good thing is to see people talk about it, is to see people out on the streets about it, protesting, saying like, yo, like I'm so sick of having to know that my government is just supporting this shit. It is good to see people speaking up, speaking out about it on the internet, in the streets. And I really hope that continues to happen. I know people are going to keep talking about Palestine, and it's still fucking free Palestine, baby. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next bit. Let's take it from The Guardian. Tremendously unfair. Latin America's strictest junk food law divides shoppers in Bogota. Instead of eating a bag of chips or Cheetos, I'll go to the fruit section of the supermarket, says Liliana Cano, a 43-year-old shopper at a supermarket in Bogota. But sometimes I still have a soft drink as a little treat. Colombia has become one of the first countries in the world to tax ultra-processed foods earlier this year. The ambitious new health measures aimed at reducing the burden of non-communicable diseases such as cancer and diabetes also include warnings carried on foods high in sugar, salt, and other additives. Let's see. Like many low and middle income countries, Colombia is seeing an increase in the burden of non-communicable diseases, which account for an estimated 76% of all deaths in the country. On average, Colombians consume 12 grams of salt a day, the most of any country in Latin America. Nearly a third of adults have high blood pressure. The additional tax of 10%, which is planned to increase to 20% by 2025, is levied against unhealthy snacks, soft drinks, as well as some staples such as processed meats. Let's see here. A month after introduction of the measures, shoppers in Bogota are beginning to feel the impact. So yeah, I really just kind of saw this pop up on my news feed, and I was like, okay, this is a very interesting thing. I will say I don't like the taxing part. I feel like that is something that is kind of taxing more or less poor people. Because if you're in a situation where you really can't afford to buy better foods when you go to the store, like let's say, yeah, I would love to make this nice meal for myself and my family, but like buying all the ingredients and, especially maybe for like 3 to 4 people or what have you, like we just literally can't afford it. When meanwhile, I can sustain my family with these chips, these drinks, and everyone's going to be happy and I can afford it. It's not going to literally break my bank. So I think taxing these products with potentially not making it like readily accessible, for the kind of produce and things you need for healthier options, that's potentially a very dangerous situation that you're putting your people in. So, there's that. But I do like the idea of labeling, letting people know, like saying, hey, this is all the stuff that is in this product. I think that is a very good thing. I think that's a very health conscious, health progressive, health forward thing, because you should know, hey, this is all the stuff you're putting in your body, and maybe that's icky, but it's been here the whole time. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see people's perspectives. I know I'm kind of just in a riff mode here. But yeah, I mean, I do think that the heart of this is in the right place. I just worry about the whole taxing situation once again without potentially balancing it. You're just trying to saying, hey, we're going to price you out of your Cheetos. But it's like, if I can't afford, once again, all the fruits I need, for a sustainable period and all the other kind of things I need, like, what am I going to do? You're putting me in a bad spot here. So yeah, I think it's just definitely got to be a balance. And, I don't know if I see any more about this stuff, then I'll definitely pipe up and chime in. And I'm very curious about it too, because, I'm thinking about it just as a fucking fat ass American. Like, that's a lot of what I eat. Like, down to the beer I drink, that's like probably getting fucking taxed. So I'm definitely saying, hey, I'm biased here, in my outlook. But once again, I do think it's good that you're trying to be more health conscious. Though I do think maybe this is like maybe health insurance saying, hey, let's like fucking slow up on these fatties. Can we like reduce these numbers? Because we don't want to keep paying off for all these diabetes stuff and all this fucking cancer stuff. Please, come on, cut out the fucking Twinkies. I don't know. Let me take my conspiratorial hat off. Okay, all right. Let's move on to the next beat. Talking lawsuits from the Associated Press. Woman sues dentist after 4 root canals, 8 dental crowns, and 20 fillings in a single visit. I gotta say, just that sounds like such a brutal fucking session. Just from reading the headline before we get into it. And yes, spoiler, it is brutal. Some would say maybe too brutal. Some might say criminally brutal. But yeah, let's get into it. A Minnesota woman has sued her dentist after receiving 4 root canals, 8 dental crowns, and 20 fillings in a single visit that she says led to her disfigurement. Excuse me. Kathleen Wilson filed a lawsuit last week in Hennepin County District Court accusing Dr. Kevin Moldrum of Moldrum Family Dentistry in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, of providing negligent treatment in July of 2020 that caused significant injuries to Wilson, along with providing an unsafe dosage of anesthesia and falsifying medical records to cover it up, the Star Tribune reported. Moldrum and his attorney, Nathaniel Weimer, did not immediately respond to requests for comment from the Associated Press on Thursday. According to the Star Tribune, Wilson's legal team retained Dr. Avram Goldstein, a dentist in Florida, to provide an expert opinion and review Wilson's medical records from Moldrum and subsequent providers. Goldstein's November 14th report, identified various duty of care breaches. Goldstein said in a report that Moldstrom made the right diagnosis, but he provided poor quality treatment. Wilson had decay on virtually every tooth in her mouth, something that is quite rare, Goldstein wrote. Moldstrom's attempt to restore all Wilson's teeth in one visit did nothing to address her susceptibility. I cannot pronounce this word. Susceptibility to disease or the potential of losing teeth, he said. Katie required a slow, thoughtful, careful, and measured response to her disease, trying to fill every hole in every tooth in her mouth in one visit is not the antithesis of what was indicated. It is not humanly possible to achieve in an effective or constructive manner. Goldstein added that it is inconceivable to address 28 teeth in 5.5 hours. Another thing that is added that the maximum dosage of anesthesia is 490 milligrams, but Muldrum administered 960 milligrams to Wilson. So that's not good. Then let's talk about the records. Muldrum said he administered 8 tubes of dental anesthetic known as carpals, but Goldstein found the first dosage alone was 8 carpals, and he administered 15 carpals throughout the visit. So he was fucking up on a lot of fucking levels here. I can understand the idea of saying, hey, I want to provide you with like quick, efficient care. You have a massive problem. We see this, we address it, and we can knock this out in one go. But if that's not a physical like possibility for the human body and for yourself, then like even if it is more money in the long run, even if it is quote unquote maybe less effective, it's more effective for the overall health of the client, of the patient. So that seems like that probably should have been the way. Obviously, I'm not a fucking dentist, but I'm gonna trust Goldstein on this one. So yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate for Wilson, to know that like she had to go through all of that trauma, potentially the amount of post care she's going to have to do just to fix that stuff because it's going to be her whole mouth. It's going to undo the work that was already done, and it's going to be even more money. Like, and I'm sure my listeners have had a tooth problem, post childhood, that has haunted them, either financially or physically. Lord knows I have my little fucking fake front tooth situation, or at least plastic cap. But yeah, I mean, that's an expensive ass fix. That's one tooth. So I can't imagine my whole grill is fucking busted, and then we go through this like heroic feat, and it turns out we never had to go through it this way. We should have gone through it a whole other way. And now I'm gonna have to go through more pain, more financial torment and torture. Hiya. But beyond medical cost, Wilson said she suffered pain, embarrassment, disfigurement, and distress. She's asking for at least $50,000 in damages. So if I hear any more about this, I will keep you posted. We have one more thing to cover. It's a bit of a little bit gossipy stuff, a little bit of side news, maybe you might say, a little pop shit, if you will. But I'm gonna treat myself. It's the end of the year, why not? Let me go ahead while I'm speaking of treating myself. Let me take my break. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, yeah. All right. Oh, all right, man. All right. From Pete. Excuse me. From page 6. Kevin Hart sues controversial YouTuber Tasha K for extortion. Kevin Hart is suing controversial YouTuber Latasha Kibi, known as Tasha K, for extortion after she allegedly threatened to release a bombshell interview with his former assistant unless he paid her a 6-figure ransom. According to the lawsuit obtained by Page 6 Wednesday, Kibi sat down with the actor's former assistant, Misha Shakes, in November of 2023 to record an interview in which the latter made false and defamatory statements regarding Hart. The comedian, 44, claims that after the interview, an alleged affiliate of Kibi said or called his team and threatened to publish the interview unless Hart paid a ransom of $250,000. At the time, they allegedly warned Hart that the stories told, which had to do with his marriage and business dealings, would be damaging to his reputation. Kibi then posted a teaser for the interview in which she and Shakes allegedly touted the supposedly salacious and damaging nature of the interview as a threat to Hart for not paying the ransom. The teaser included a statement from Kibi at the 206 mark of the video, specifically warning that when you don't pay, we have to get the money by any means necessary, the lawsuit claims. At that point, the Jumanji Stars team allegedly contacted the police and sent the YouTuber a cease and desist letter noting that Shakes had previously signed a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, as well as a confidentiality agreement while working for Hart from 2017 to 2020. AKA, she should not be chirping about this. She should not be able to talk about this. It's like, hey, this is not something you're allowed to be doing for like any kind of profit or motive, things like that. That being said, man, I don't know. NDAs are kind of funky to me. Obviously, I'm just a random poor Midwestern guy. I'm never going to get myself in one of those kind of fucking situations. But that always seems like something that's like, man, I wonder how that really holds up in court. I really never looked that up. Maybe I should. But anyway. Yet on December of 2022, rewind. Yet on December 22nd, Kibi allegedly told Hart that she would be posting the full interview, which went live that evening on her subscription-based website. In the interview, Shakes touched on several legal disputes in which he had been involved and alleged that the father of four has a gambling addiction and is a habitual cheater. The actor is now suing both women for extortion and invasion of privacy. He is also suing Shakes for breach of contract and defamation. Meanwhile, he is also trying to get Kibi for intentional interference with contractual relations. She then, I think, went on to post the interview on Instagram, Tasha K. But I wanted to reference what Kevin Hart referenced, because this isn't the first time I've heard of Tasha K. I actually didn't talk about another pop story that was kind of going on throughout the year with Cardi B. So Hart's lawyer cited the Unwind with Tasha K's host long history with defamatory and otherwise improper content regarding celebrities and other high-profile individuals, including Cardi B. For instance, most recently, she was found liable for damages exceeding $3 million in a defamation lawsuit by the musician Cardi B, the lawsuit wrote, pointing to the rapper's January 2022 win against the YouTuber. The Bodak Yellow rapper had sued Kibi in 2019 after the latter posted videos claiming the Grammy winner had prostituted herself, was addicted to hard drugs, was unfaithful to her husband Offset, had contracted herpes, and even once fucked herself with beer bottles. So she was like saying just like the wildest shit. And it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I get it. You're a gossip, content creator. This is your lane. You're going to talk about things you've heard and yada, yada. You're going to speak on that. But to take the things that she said to the level that she did and then to like double down so many times, it's like, yeah, man, like this feels like, fucking slander or, yeah, it's slander, right? Because libel's the written one. I think so. Ding, ding, ding. But, yeah, man, it was a whole mess of a trial. She gets found guilty of it. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to say, I'm going to claim bankruptcy. Same thing, our guy Rudy Giuliani did. And they're like, okay, cool, but you still have to pay. And then she was like saying, oh, I'm going and hiding. She was like saying she was in this place and that place. It was a whole fucking thing. And I'm over here just like seeing this shit. Like, this shit is crazy. And I wanted to cover it, but it just didn't feel, on par with what I normally usually cover. But now that this is the second time, because like there was a moment where, you know, because they've constantly kind of talked to Cardi B throughout this whole process, and she's even gotten to the point where she's like, "Look, you know, I get it. Like, you know, we're taking a lot of money out of this person's pocket. It is a lot. I really just want her to understand that what she said and did was just damaging to me, and like apologize." And like more or less, Tasha K kind of like came out and said like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I feel really bad about this at the end of the day. Yada yada yada." But it's like then she goes and does this, and now like Cardi B's like, "Yeah, fuck the shit." You know what I mean? So I hope that justice is served. I'll say that. I hope that all parties get the money that is entitled to them, especially in regards to Cardi B. And yeah, we'll leave it at that for the day. Let's see here. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. I shout you out at the top of the month. I plug your name, plug a project if you like. And then free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials you're on. And then hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube. Hopefully you're hitting the thumbs up button. Hopefully you're hitting the bell to keep posting on the episodes. And if you're not doing that on YouTube, hopefully you're doing it on Spotify, Apple for podcasting, or whatever it's called, whatever listening thing you're on right now. Do me that solid. I'd love that. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.